this was when in other words, here's the way I view the world. Christians, if they are not in power, if they're not ruling, they're going to be ruled. That's it. So if that's the case, and that is the case, we live in a democracy which is full of structured power blocks. Everything is a power block. And because of that, you're going to be ruled by a power block or you're going to rule a power block. This idea that Christians shouldn't be in charge, I think, is insane. And I think it comes from a bizarre libertarian ethos that makes no sense, where the idea here is you can be a Christian, but you can't govern.
Guys, thank you so much for joining me. John Soto here, John Sotocast. We're going to take a look today at Andrew Wilson, was on PBD. Gave a really, really good interview. The beginning part of the interview, I'm just gonna like drop the needle in the middle somewhere. In the beginning, he actually gets into a lot of his personal life, which we've never heard of before, about a lot of like really tragic stuff that this guy's gone through in his entire life. I went to the middle of the segment just because, like I normally do, not everybody has 2 hours to watch a podcast. This I thought was a really interesting segment that I have some thoughts on. Let's listen to how Andrew lays this out. And then we'll, like always, comment on the back end. Guys, if you're here, thank you for all the new subs. I really appreciate it.
Using Christian ethics. And it's like, well, yeah, you can. And yes, you should. You absolutely should be able to govern using Christian ethics. That's the only way you should govern, is from your ethical purview, in fact. And if you're not governing, if Christians aren't in charge, somebody else is going to be in charge of them. And so this is a race for power. And it's always been a race for power. And for some reason, Christians have been convinced to give their power up. And one of the core seats of my message is that they shouldn't do that, and instead should do everything they can to maintain political power. That's the non-apologetics branch. So the way that the internet is currently structured, you have the apologetics branch of Christianity. That's the role you're talking about with Trent Horn and Lila Rose and these people, the apologetics branch. You have barely any of the political branch for Christianity. No good representation on that side. Politics is ugly, and it's mean, and it's brutal, and it's not fun, and it's full of slings and arrows and mudslinging and reputational assaults and reputational damage, right? That's what it's full of. I just wish that the apologetics arm would get their shit together and understand that the very things that they're trying to fight against, abortion, things like this, they need the political arm for. And if they're not willing to engage in it, then they should at least support the people who are, instead of endlessly criticizing them. And that's all they do. That's all they know how to do. But that's the way I see it. I see it as a power block struggle. You're either going to be ruled by the lunatics of the world, or you're going to rule the lunatics of the world.
Which lunatic do you fear the most? And which lunatic seems like is making the most progress?
Like Gavin Newsom, lunatics like this. We now have a communist in charge of New York. I mean, you name the progressive. AOC, she's another lunatic. All of these progressives, from my view, are actual lunatics with no grounding ideology whatsoever other than what they've heard. They don't have God. They don't have Jesus. They don't have anything to turn to for epistemic grounding. Nothing. And they literally rule from feelings, suicidal empathy, and they put suicidal empathy in policy form. That's why we have mass migration. I mean, the most insane policy I could ever think of is let's bring in 1.5 million people a year into a nation. If you want to do immigration, fine. Do immigration, but bring in a manageable number that can be integrated. 30,000, 50,000, 60,000. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. You know, you can integrate those people over time. You can spread them out. You can do all this. That's not what's going on. What's going on is they're bringing in millions per year. In Australia, they're bringing in whole percentages of the population yearly. In Canada, the same thing.
So one of the things that he touched on a little bit earlier was the fact that he kind of rails against the libertarian side a little bit, and obviously because he's coming from a Christian standpoint, where he has his Christian values that he puts forth, and that's kind of how, I guess, the basis of his ideology. Again, Andrew Wilson is a really smart, excellent debater. I certainly wouldn't want to debate him. I like to listen to him because it helps me formulate my ideas and my thinking and my arguments, coming from a non-Christian perspective. So that's not to say that I am or I'm not a Christian. I'm just not really. I'm going through my personal journey right now, but I still do believe that Christian values, even if I'm not maybe a devout Christian, the Christian values, I think, would structure the best society, from what I can see throughout the world at this current time. I think they're the most. They're very loving. They're very nurturing. They're very caring. They're very accepting. A lot of all of the other religions, they're not very particularly accepting, and they kind of seek to dominate and to overtake. And they're very, if you're part of their tribe, then they really are they'll step over anyone else to help out that part of their tribe. And I don't see Christians as like that. I see them just they're very easygoing. They're very accepting. They're very tolerant. And that's kind of why they're being like run over right now. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you kind of want them to be like that, but the people that are like that are typically not the people that are in charge. Andrew Wilson, he comes out always. I mean, if you've ever seen him in debate, he comes out, he's always on the offense. Always. He never backs down. He never plays defense. He's always on the attack. He's always in your face. Patrick Bet-David said earlier in the beginning that he has an anger in his eyes, and he does. Like, he looks like he's just coming at you, like he wants to fight verbally and with ideas. And that's not something that you really particularly see in many, Orthodox Christians. So it's a really good argument. And then that's my takeaway. Like, I just think that, like, the Christian ideology on the whole is probably best for governing a nation under. And you do need that. And a lot of people say you don't need that. You absolutely do need that. You need some sort of structure of value. Otherwise, where's the value coming from? If the value is merely coming from a piece of paper, then I don't know. Like, you can just say, yeah, well, I don't believe in that piece of paper for right now, or whatever it is. Yeah, these are really interesting, really complex ideas that I'm just starting to like flesh out in myself. And I'm at the journey now where I've come to a place in my life where, I'm not like really struggling for a lot of other things, and I can kind of start thinking about like philosophy and religion and things like that. So this is where I'm starting now. Let's take a listen to what else he has to say. It's really interesting stuff.
It's insanity. And then they go out, if you object, you're a Nazi. It's like, what are you talking about? If I object to that, I'm a Nazi? You're going to bring in people who don't have value structures that are the same as our value structures. They don't have the same type of American drive. They don't have the same values. They don't have the same anything. And me objecting to that means that I'm a fascist. Now, that's crazy to me. I consider that lunacy. I consider these people on the lunatic fringe of the political spectrum, and yet they're gaining power. And so they go, why is it that the fringe right is making such momentum? How can you have guys like Nick Fuentes making such momentum? And it's like, he's a product of you. Okay, he's a product of you. Say, well, how come his message has come? How come his message's time has come? It's like, because of you. You made it inevitable. It was really funny. Fuentes used to say, America first is inevitable. And people would scoff, right? And the left made it inevitable. The thing about what they did, they deplatformed the guy. They said, make your own technology, smart guy. So he did. Right? So he makes his own streaming platform, right? Next thing in the headlines, Nazis making their own streaming platforms. Well, you told them to. You deplatform from the one place that you can engage with him publicly that would get normal people to view him, right? And others like him. And you threw him off of that. And they went and they built their own platforms. Not just him. Gavin did it too. Gavin McGinnis, right? Stefan Molyneux had the largest philosophy show. I loved watching that show. Okay, loved it. I would drive for hours listening to Stefan Molyneux prattle about philosophy because I'm a dork like that, right? Hours of listening to this guy prattle. And I'd always say, one day I'm going to debate this fucking idiot. I like the guy.
Did you or no?
I haven't yet. Okay. I will. But I like the guy quite a bit. Don't get me wrong. I really do. But I would listen to him for hours, these guys. And YouTube systematically threw them all off the platform, not because of any actual violations to their terms of service. What they did was they reacted to the liberal progressive base and then based their terms of service on that reaction.
They created monsters. And again, that doesn't mean that if I can't say that I disagree or agree with a particular person. I would have to take whatever idea they're espousing in the moment and then argue that particular point. Because I'm pretty sure almost everybody is going to have some form of agreement with everybody else. Like there is going to be one common track, no matter how crazy it is. If you're going from Hitler to Jesus Christ, I guarantee you somewhere down the line they had something where they could say, yeah, I could see that. There is always that is always the case. And for people to think that that's not the case, that's when you lose your humanity. You are thinking that somebody is like subhuman because you have such hatred for them. They were a child. They were a baby. Somebody cared for them. Somebody loved them. They do have people that they love and they care for, and that they care about. People, things, whether it's pets, whatever. We tend to think, I mean, there are absolute lunatics, don't get me wrong, that will, serial killers and things of that nature that really just have, and then even them, like they're still going to have, you're still going to find points of comparison with even a serial killer. For you to think that's not the case, you're just not living in reality. That is the truth. So when we look at, you know, people like that, we just have to look through the lens that everybody, you can relate to somebody in some way.
And then the counter narrative was, well, go build your own. So they did. They went and they built their own. So now they've built all their own, and then they start amassing this huge audience completely unopposed. Okay, well, times are a-changing. Now X is bought by Elon Musk. Suddenly that's freed up. They're all allowed to come back on X. Now they got
And these guys were out there grinding it. These guys were out there. They made their own platforms. They did what they had to do. They got together. They got together a really hardcore following, and now you've unleashed them to the world. And you know, especially when it comes to a guy like Nick. Like Nick is capitalizing on the fact that teens, they rebel. That's what they do. You know, if you tell a teen, don't do this, that's the very first thing that they're going to do. Because that's part of growing up. Part of growing up is pushing the boundaries of what you can and cannot do, and just figuring out this world, like trying to figure out what's going on here. And in order to do that, you have to push the boundaries. So when somebody goes out there and they say, you know, that they love Stalin or something like that, and everybody like goes nuts over it, you're going to get a lot of teenage guys and like, hey, everyone's going crazy over that. All right, I like them too. It's the punk rock band. Like it's the oldest, you know, since the beginning of time. That's just the way it is. Like they rebel, and you gave them this guy to rebel against with, and that's their current leader right now. And he's absolutely right. The left is who did it. The progressives, the technocrats, they're the ones that stymied all of this speech, shoved it all the way down. So you cannot, will not, and shall not discuss any of these issues. And if you do, you're a racist, homophobe, bigoted, xenophobic, LGBTQ hating person. And people just, especially the young people were the first ones that just said, yeah, I don't give a shit. I don't care. If you want to call me anti-trans, okay, fine. I guess that's what I am, or anti-gay or whatever. Like, fine. Like, you know, my older kids, you know, everyone still, the jokes are the same. Everyone still calls each other gay. Like, that's just, it doesn't change. What changes is the overall view. You know, when I was growing up in the, you know, in the early 2000s, you know, it was extremely like politically correct was not even a thing. Like nobody thought about that. Everyone was having fun. It was Black, Spanish, freaking Jewish. Everybody was in together, ragging on each other, joking with each other, talking shit about each other. I mean, racist shit. I mean, you know, that will be deemed racist, but we were all friends, and it was fine. It's not a big deal. And then we went through this arc where it just became so, just completely over policed. And on the other side of that, you're going to get what we have now, which is a complete revolt and a complete, you know, just utter pushback of what is being, you know, brought onto them. And I do see it leveling out. It will level out. That's the normal thing. And then hopefully we can get back to where we were prior, and it'll just sustain there.
Another platform. And what can you do on X now? You can video host too.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can do video on X, and they can't just nuke you anymore, right? So now the whole arena is opened up, right? And the backlash is ginormous. And it's like, all you got to do is go look in the mirror to see who's responsible for it. You dumb lefties. These stupid leftists did it. They did it all to themselves. Literally blew their feet on. What they did was they set their feet on fire to warm up their hands. That's what they did.
Yeah, we're talking to a guy right before you came in, one of your biggest fans in the world who, you know, Rob is laughing, but he says, you know, all this stuff about feminism. I said, where do you think Andrew Tate came from? They created him. He didn't just all of a sudden start speaking this language that, you know, misogynist, all this other stuff. No, they pushed men so much to try to make them feminine that guys are like, is there anybody out there that is an alpha that can just come and tell me the way it is? That's okay to be a man's man. Boom. Here shows up an Andrew. Next thing you know, becomes the, you know, who he is, and everyone's like, oh, Andrew Tate is a problem. You created him. Kind of goes back to the point you're making.
My name is Andrew Wilson, host of The Crucible.
He was,
as you guys know,
he was really excellent in this podcast. I mean, he truly was. He always is. He's always, but this podcast got into a little bit different, especially the very beginning. Like I said, he got into some personal issues, and it was a wild ride he had. Let me just check out this short real quick, see if it has any different topics.
How could you defend an abuser? How could you do this? And I'm thinking, shut up, you lying snake. Like, there's no way you're going to convince me that in the course of your relationship of 20 years, that if we had cameras on you at all times, we're not going to find this moment times 20.
100%.
Yeah, just shut up. A lot of those people who are the critics, let's say in your case, my case.
So in this particular instance, he's talking about Steven Crowder, the Steven Crowder incident. Obviously this was maybe like a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point. Crowder, obviously his wife, uploaded a video of them in their backyard where they're arguing. Steven's like sitting on the couch and he was talking shit. They were having a bit of an argument, and it just became this massive uproar on the right to try to cast Crowder out. It was also the same time that he was like, he had lost. He was, I think that was when the Daily Wire contract came out, and he posted his contract with the Daily Wire, basically saying that they were like, trying to like scam content creators. It was also the time where like, I think it was Quarter Black, one of his hosts was leaving, and then after that, then Dave Landau leaves. Crowder had a rough patch. I mean, a really rough patch. He's starting to come back up right now. So just to catch up, that's what they're talking about.
Crowder's case, many others. A lot of that, I think, comes from a position of jealousy. And because of that, these people, all they do is criticize. But my challenge has always been to the Sewing Circle Christians, well, where are you? Like, I'm on the other end of the most diabolical people daily. I'm in the most hostile environments, the most hostile panels, right? I'm always completely surrounded. I've never seen any of you. Where the hell are you? How could you defend an abuser?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, he's always down for the fight.
Out there that is an alpha.
Always down for the fight, man. If that's one thing, like I said, if you guys could check him out, I mean, he is an absolute monster on the debate stage, on pretty much on any stage. I mean, he's just a wrecking ball. Like, there are very few people out there that want to get into the ring with Andrew Wilson at this point of the game. He's just very good at it. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. For the new subscribers, thank you. I really appreciate it. Got a lot of new subscribers. If you are a subscriber, you want to share and like, that'll be awesome. If you're not a subscriber yet, you want to subscribe, that's pretty cool too. This was on the Patrick McDavid podcast, episode number 707 with Andrew Wilson. If you want to check out in its entirety, it's about a 2 hour and 40-minute podcast. I plowed through it all. I thought, a really interesting point. But yeah, guys, check it out. It's an excellent podcast. Andrew Wilson is excellent. If you want to find me on X, 6283 Talk on the X. I'm John Soto. See you again in the next video, guys. Take care.